Number 4. Dragon Ball Evolution. As you can see, Hollywood is having a really hard time trying to adapt an American cartoon into a decent live-action film. So what made them think that they can adapt a Japanese anime? I just find it fascinating how they can turn one of the most famous anime franchises of all time into one big embarrassment of a film. For starters, the story is just way too simplistic. It's the kind of plot where they have to find a group of mystical items, which in this case are the Dragon Balls, before the bad guys do because they're evil, and that's it. Now with a story like that, you have to add in something extra to the film to be more engaging, like an added plot that goes with that one, or an interesting legend that ties in with the mystical items, or even explain why the villains want those items. But I guess we can't make the writers think too hard, right? I mean, seriously, I'd expect that plot more in a Mario game than a Dragon Ball movie. The only thing they would add into it is just some romance between some characters that doesn't even contribute to the plot whatsoever, and some cliches that just make the script even more lazier. But those things are nothing compared to the first 15 minutes of the movie. Now, I don't know if the writers had no clue how to start a Dragon Ball movie and just go with this one just to get their paycheck sooner, but what they did here is unbelievable. What is it? High school! Where Goku has to face many problems, like bullies, a school crush, not paying attention in class, and going to parties without his grandpa knowing. Because, you know, that's what we all loved about Dragon Ball! Genius! Come to think of it, a large part of this movie doesn't even remotely feel like Dragon Ball. The only time when it resembles anything like that is in the last 20 minutes of the film. The rest is all just the big Dragon Ball Easter hunt. Even at one point, we see Goku's famous orange costume and he's like, meh, I'll wear this later. But another problem that I have with this movie is the characters. They all feel one-dimensional, and sometimes the acting can get bad, like Justin Chatwin as Goku. The only guy who is at least trying to be entertaining is Chow Yun-fat as Master Roshi. But this guy gets so over the top that I feel like he's trying to outdo Ken Jeong.
I am Lieutenant Roshi, the Invincible!
You.
Add in some action scenes with no sense and some crappy special effects, and Dragon Ball Evolution is all set to be the Super Saiyan of bad films. Number 3. The Last Airbender. In an age where people would complain that cartoon shows aren't as good as they used to be, I've never seen one earn so much praise as much as Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've only seen some episodes, and from what I saw, it's just incredible. The story's very engaging and creative, the animation is really nice, and the characters are unforgettable. And might I add that the spin-off, The Legend of Korra, is not too far behind. But at the same time, I've never seen a movie based on a cartoon earn so much hatred more than The Last Airbender. Now, where do I start with this crap? How about the plot? First off, M. Night Shyamalan is trying to turn the first 20 episodes into a 90-minute film. That already sounds like a plan for disaster, and that's how it feels like when watching this. They don't give us time to explain what's going on or why are they doing that. Also, some of the fight scenes are just ridiculous. I can understand that they have to do a few moves before bending their elements, but in here, you have to do an entire dance number before bending anything. But believe me when I say that those flaws are nothing compared to the characters. What's wrong with them?
Everything! Every reason to wake up in the morning!
The characters are all one-dimensional, they don't give us time to feel for them, the acting is more wooden than a tree, they never pronounce their names properly, they don't even look like their cartoon counterparts, the dialogue is humiliating, and they don't even act like how they were in the show. Seriously, Shyamalan, if your characters act like this...
I watched what side of the fin tracks are more indented, that shows you which direction they're going. I saw how long the drag skids are, that shows you how fast they're going.
And are supposed to act more like this...
It's a giant mushroom.
Maybe it's friendly!
It just makes me wonder if you have ever seen the show that you're trying to adapt from. Now, there is no doubt that it's bad, and I mean multi-Razzie award-winning bad, but I have to say, maybe it's so bad it's actually entertaining. There are several moments in the film that are either really awful or so stupid I just couldn't stop laughing. Like, look at the scene here where the moon returned to its normal state. There is no way that you can make that unintentional. This is comedy gold. The Last Airbender. What do the real benders think of this?
That wasn't a good play.
I'll say. No kidding. Horrible. You said it.
But the effects were decent.
Okay, I know that you guys think that this is too low on the list and it should be at number 1 without any question, but believe me when I say that there are films that are much worse than this. No matter how much you hate it. Number 2. Mr. Magoo. Unlike The Last Airbender, where it's so bad it's hilarious, this film is so bad it's just embarrassing and awkward to look at it, or even being near it. First off, have you ever heard of a humorless comedy? Like, a movie where it acts like a comedy, but it never gets funny whatsoever. That's pretty much what best describes Mr. Magoo. Every single joke is just a cheap attempt of slapstick, and none of them works. Mostly because they're either overused, stolen from something else, or how they did it was awful. Now, just to let you know, I love Leslie Nielsen. He's a comic legend, and he's in some of the greatest comedies of all time, like Airplane and the Naked Gun series. May you and your whoopee cushions rest in peace, dude. It even shows in here that he's trying, but the jokes are so bad that not even Nielsen can make it funny. And keep in mind, we're talking about the same guy who made the Scary Movies funny. So the problem is you, movie, not Nielsen. But it seems that it's only Leslie here who puts in some level of effort in this. The rest didn't even try to do their jobs, even less than in Yogi Bear. Like, the acting in here is atrocious, and the worst ones I find is Matt Kieslar as Waldo and Jennifer Gardner as Stacy. Oh, and keep in mind, people, that this was made before she was famous. Anyways, Stacy is just an emotionless love interest with a weird accent from, I don't know where, I guess Maldonia. And Waldo? Just watch.
Angus! Stop terrorizing the squirrels.
How dare you interrupt my big romantic scene? I was about to pull off my first believable performance. Another stupid aspect of this film is that everything in the story is like if the writers pulled it out of their butts. They add in so many plot points and characters that are so out of the blue that makes this dumb plot even more idiotic. Like the bumbling agents, the bad acting romance angle, the dumb chases, the villain's plot with the Ruby, the terrible fight scenes. Yeah, I know, there are fight scenes in a Mr. Magoo movie, but trust me when I say that's not the weirdest thing in this film. Now, for those of you who don't know the original cartoon, Mr. Magoo is an old man with a bad eyesight and goes into insane and over-the-top situations, but always ends up okay. Not really the best cartoons, but it has its own charm and likability. Plus, you would never believe the fact that blind or nearsighted people are like that. If you try to tell someone that they're not like Mr. Magoo, then you'll end up looking like a complete idiot because you're just stating the obvious. Oh, which by the way, at the end of the movie, that's exactly what they did! In small, hard-to-read letters made especially for them!
What a wonderful touch!
Like a crazy senile old man, Mr. Magoo should have taken his pills before wandering off to the big screen. And if you guys want to know what is the weirdest part of the movie, it's gonna be hard to say. Okay. Leslie Nielsen flying over a waterfall with a raft in a bride's dress. Now, let me take a moment to think about what I just said while you guys go and watch the honorable mentions. Films like The Simpsons movie, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Rugrats in Paris, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and more. Now, all of these films have been critically approved and even beloved by fans of the show, and they all have one thing in common. Yes, they're all animated, but that's not the point. What I mean is that they're all created by the same people who made the show. No matter how you put your mind to it, it just makes sense to leave the creator of the show to make a film adaptation of his own creation. Sure, there are films based on a TV show not made by the creators that are actually good, but keep in mind, for every good one, a ton of bad ones have to be made first. Also, one of the biggest obstacles for them is to recreate the feeling and the style of the show, and sometimes they would focus more on that than the actual script. But when the show's creator is in charge, that obstacle is no problem to them, giving them more time to focus on the story, resulting in some great films that fans and sometimes non-fans can enjoy. A great example of this is South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Not only is this one of the best films based on a cartoon, but some even claim that this is one of the greatest animated films of all times. Now, I know that there are also films based on a show made by the series creators that are critically hated, like Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie or the Pokemon movies, but even with that, there are still fans of the show who enjoy them because maybe they were made more for them. Not only that, but there are even cartoons that have both a film made by the show's creators and a live-action film that would probably be on the list, and the creator's version is just 50 times better than that. Like, don't watch Yogi Bear, go see Hey There It's Yogi Bear, or don't watch any of these Michael Bay droppings, go see Transformers the movie. So, what I'm trying to say is that if you're going to see a film based on a TV show and it's made by the same guys who made the series, then there might be a good chance that you'll have a better time with that than watching one made by someone else. And the number one worst film based on a cartoon is... Now, before we move on to the worst film based on a cartoon, I just want to say that ever since I started this whole thing, I feared for the moment that I would watch this, because I knew this was terrible. And I already had a vision in my head of how it would be. But it turned out to be worse than I could possibly ever imagine. Now, you may think that, oh, this isn't a film based on a cartoon, but it is. There was an animated series made before the film, and it was actually very similar to that. So technically, it counts. And since films like Transformers are allowed to be on this list, then this one too. Ladies and gentlemen, the number one worst film based on a cartoon is... Bratz the Movie! First of all, I just want to say that I hate everything about the Bratz. Not only are they an obvious ripoff of Barbie, but they're just a bad influence to girls everywhere, telling them that it's okay to be a brainless, slutty believer who only cares about shopping for clothes and parties. But back onto the main subject. I'm just amazed there was actually a group of people that not only made this, but approved it and distributed it all over the world in theaters. I feel like categorizing this as a fantasy film because nothing in there can ever function in the real world. But then again, I can't do that because even in fantasy films there is logic to what's going on or to what they do. There is nothing in here that is right in terms of making a movie and general knowledge. But you do have to give the film some credit. They made an entire cast that would make Bella from Twilight look like a reasonable human being. The characters with more screen time are either obnoxious valley girls or a complete moron, or even both. The rest are just school stereotypes that would even make Skids and Mudflap offended, like the jocks, the nerds, the goths, the cheerleaders, the mimes. There are freaking mimes! And another thing is that there are some musical numbers in this. 3 to be exact. And they aren't just bad. They're like in par with Rebecca Black's Friday. And at the end of the film, there are 2 of them in a row. I just couldn't handle it. I had to mute that part, it was so bad. You know, I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart that this is possibly the worst film I've ever seen in my life. And that is saying a lot since I've seen a lot of bad films. I think we should do like Shaq Fu and try to take all the copies of this horrible thing and destroy it so it will never see the light of day. Starting with this one! And that's all I've got for the top 10 worst films based on a cartoon. Now, these films were obviously failed attempts, but at least Hollywood has decided to put an end to making movies adapted from cartoon shows.
Actually, that's not true.
What the French?
Actually, it's pronounced Mr. Coe, but that's beside the point. There's still some films based on a cartoon in development or considered to be made, like Hong Kong Phooey, Mr. Peabody and Sherman, Samurai Jack, The Jetsons, that He-Man remake, Phineas and Ferb, Tom and Jerry, Marvin the Martian.
Okay, yeah, there are already some planned, but after that there'll be no more, right?
What are you talking about? I haven't even started on the announced ones.
Announced?
Oh, haven't you heard? They've just announced a ton of new movies based off of cartoons, live action adaptations. Let's see here, Rugrats, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Beyblade,
DuckTales, Ed and Eddie, Yu-Gi-Oh!
The Legend of Korra, Robot Chicken, Ren and Stimpy,
Tailspin and Thundercats and Courage the Cowardly Dog and Snagglepuss,
Jimmy Neutron, Doug, the Powerpuff Girls,
American Dad, My Little Pony,
Sailor Moon, Drawn Together, Care Bears.
Hey, Anna Matt. It looks like you better start working on your next top 10 list.
Deception, disgrace.